Buenos dias. So I want to tell you a story about when I was a teenager. I got discovered to be a fashion model in Europe. So I lived in Milan, Italy. I lived in London. I lived in Paris. And I traveled all over the place. I was in Tokyo. I did shoots all over the world. And that at that time in my life, now we're talking over 30 years ago, that was like the epitome of success. That was, being rich, being famous. I wasn't famous, but I was working towards that because I thought that was going to be like the ultimate. And the reality was not that. It was not fun for me. I did not enjoy it. I didn't enjoy the actual work. I didn't enjoy most of the people I worked with. I didn't like sitting there for hours every day having all this makeup caked on my face, which didn't feel good to me. I didn't like just being valued solely for how I looked. I didn't like half the clothes I had to wear and basically how I had to just be this coat hanger for this. It didn't feel good. Even though to the world and to a lot of people externally, that was like success and that was good. And that's the thing, the journey I went on from there. So while I was a fashion model in Europe, I started seeking answers because I was like, this isn't it. And I got a massage from my aunt who had just become a massage therapist when I went to visit her. And it blew my mind. Like I'd never been touched in such a positive way. I grew up with a lot of violence and no physical affection, no hugging, nothing. And that to me was far more valuable than all the money I was making and this whatever status I was working towards achieving, being a fashion model in Europe. And so I quit. And I went to massage school in New Mexico. And while I was in massage school, I met a Mexican man who was from the hood. And he rocked my world. He rocked my world. He taught me how to make things with my hands. He was extremely affectionate and passionate and artistic. And even though that was a very, very, very tumultuous relationship, the passion that he brought out of me was extreme, and the connection to my physical body, the connection to nature. He used to take me on these walks through the wilderness and learning how to make things with my hands. I felt far richer in that life than I did as a fashion model in Europe. And then, so my life ever since then, and that relationship ended, and then I ended up going to Africa, and I was in a village talking to these women who, it was just absolutely gorgeous, this village. The views were just incredible, and I'm sitting outside with these village women who are pounding rice by hand while their children are hanging out right in front of them, this very small children playing, and the women are telling me through a translator that they wish they could come to America and have the life I had. And all I'm thinking, because by the time I was in Africa, I already had a child, and I'm thinking, you don't know how good you have it, because in America, the way I was living, I was alone in a kitchen cooking by myself with this little 1-year-old, 2-year-old begging for my attention that I've got to entertain, and you're alone and you've got to entertain this child. It is not easy. Meanwhile, these women are out in this gorgeous environment, with hanging out with each other while their children entertain each other right in front of them. And I'm thinking, this is a better life. But I had a choice on how I lived, and they didn't feel like they had a choice. So that's a huge difference. But after my experience in Africa, which just blew my mind open in so many other ways and changed my life completely, I'll tell those stories another time. I just kept on this journey of looking for what really felt good, what felt rich, and what felt alive, and what felt satisfying. And it has been a long journey of me reaching for the things that really felt good, not what society and family and whatever says is good, what society says is success. And then I ended up moving to LA, wanting to make it in the film industry so I could buy land and live in nature. And then I got totally caught up in the rat race there and lost a lot of that. but then I was reintroduced to it when I was in Bulgaria working on some films and was in a village, and here it was again. The reality, like, this feels better to me. So through a whole set of circumstances and over many, many, many years, I finally am back in nature, like I always wanted to be, because since I realized this is where I feel the best. And so now, even though to some people my life may look hard or difficult or not successful because I walk around barefoot all the time, I don't own a car, I barely have any money. I have 20 acres though, and I live in absolute paradise. Like, yesterday was so exquisite, I just wanted to explode. I picked all these wild mushrooms and wild greens, and I was down in the creek bed washing them in the creek water. And then I cooked them into a stew using rainwater I collected, and then I was drinking rainwater that tasted so amazing. And then I came down to the creek to wash my clothes. I didn't wash them in the creek. I used yucca soap from the land, and I used the creek water to wash my clothes, and then I dumped it on a tree. And all of these things, they feel so connected, and it's like pure ecstasy. And I want to share that with people, that if you really pay attention to how you feel, not what you think is success, but what feels good, what makes you happy and fulfilled and ecstatic and feeling alive, that is success. And I have that. And so I have the idea for a show that I want to film called Wild Things Live Free, The Chronicles of My Ecstasy, because I am in ecstasy 90% of the time, maybe 95% of the time. And that doesn't mean I don't have challenges and I don't, fall apart and cry and have my issues. I definitely do. But most of the time, oh my goodness, the ecstasy I'm in, living in this divine wilderness, is so incredible. And I want to share that with people. I want to expose you to the fact that once you start to really tune into how you feel, the things you desire will change. Because if you care about how you feel and you want to feel good, nature is gonna grab a hold of you, and you're gonna want that, because it's pure magic and it's ecstasy.